Welcome in to another episode of The Racing Report. My name is Rob Peeters, and I'm so glad you've decided to tune in for another fabulous little half hour where we are going to talk all things motorsports, because there's a lot to get to. A lot of things happening over the past week in the world of NASCAR. Just in the world of NASCAR. It seems like NASCAR was dominating the news. Obviously, Formula One is still going through their summer break. IndyCar has already crowned their champion, but they still got 2 races left to run, and we've got a lot of news to cover and get down to regarding that. So, without further ado, be sure, if you like this show, to please follow me on social media. You can do so by looking up at rpeeters33. That's RPEETERS 33. And then make sure to have that WTHR Plus app installed on your smart TV so that you can get brand new episodes of The Racing Report as soon as they are posted. So let's go ahead and jump right on into the news today. We'll start off with Formula One news, as we always do. And the first piece of news, this is big. Red Bull Motorsport advisor Helmut Marko says that Yuki Tsunoda's future with the team is quote-unquote open until a review of his performance following the summer break. Now, this is not an uncommon practice by Formula One teams. They do typically do this. They do evaluate drivers typically, but during the summer break and then after it as well. So this likely is determining whether or not Red Bull wants to re-sign Yuki Tsunoda for another season as Max Verstappen's teammate, or if maybe they want to go looking in a different direction. Again, it has been a very rough stretch of races for Yuki Tsunoda lately, not scoring points compared to Max Verstappen, who is scoring points. That's a big problem, especially if you're Red Bull. So this is something we're going to have to look at as we get closer to the return of Formula One coming up in a couple of weeks' time at Zandvoort. We're going to need to look at that to see which drivers are on the hot seat and which drivers have their seats probably more or less safe for next year. It could be very, very interesting in the F1 paddock over the next couple of weeks. So, as with that, let's talk about some new news. Actually, all news is new, but actually, let's talk about some other news in the world of Formula One. The Prime Minister of Portugal says that the country is ready to formalize Formula One's return to Algarve, or Portimao, as it's colloquially known as well, pending confirmation of a 2027 date. Now, we already know that the Formula One calendar for 2026 has been announced. We covered that in a previous Racing Report episode, but now we see Portugal is looking to come back to the Formula One calendar, so much so that the Prime Minister of the country is even saying, yeah, we're just waiting on the formal details to get ironed out. Pretty good. I think a lot of people, myself included, really do like that circuit there. If you don't remember, that was one of the tracks that Formula One used as kind of a stopgap / replacement track for a lot of when a lot of Grands Prix had to be canceled during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020. And obviously, Portimao did return, I believe, for at least another couple of years as well in the Formula One calendar. But now the Prime Minister says, no, we want to be back on the Formula One calendar, at least in some sort of capacity, as soon as 2027. So we'll have to see if that gets announced. Probably won't know about it until later in the year, if not next year. But hey, interesting news. At least you're aware of it now. So if it happens, you know. And finally, there's, like I said, not a lot of Formula One news. We're still going through the summer break, so not a lot of teams are breaking a lot of news. Everybody's pretty much taking a break, taking a relaxing vacation probably. But here's something that's interesting. The F1 movie is expected to begin streaming on Apple TV Plus beginning in August 2022. Excuse me, beginning August 22nd. Sorry, I misread my whole script. Beginning August 22nd. So basically, by Friday, we should be able to watch the F1 movie on Apple TV+. So if you haven't caught it yet, now's your chance. You'll be able to do so on streaming. And again, it's maybe not a bad idea to keep that Apple TV+ subscription if you can afford it, because believe me, everything's a subscription nowadays. But if you can, like I said, F1 television rights likely going to Apple TV+ beginning next year. So we'll have to see. It might not be a bad idea there, but at least you get a little introduction, a start. You'll be able to watch the F1 movie on that platform as well. So that is it for the world of Formula One news. Let's go ahead and jump now into the world of IndyCar news, because we've got a decent amount to talk about this week. First of all, Marcus Armstrong has signed a contract extension with Meyer Shank Racing that will keep him in the number 66 Honda at least through the next year, 2026. He'll still be paired with Felix Rosenqvist next year. So good news there. Keeping the status quo there at Meyer Shank Racing. And then something Also, that's interesting. If you're watching this weekend's race at Milwaukee, you might notice Jacob Abel will have a different number. Yes, that's because Jacob Abel is being sponsored by Miller Lite this year. Now, remember, Miller Lite sponsored him when he failed to qualify for the Indianapolis 500 earlier this year, as he was driving a Danny Sullivan throwback, obviously commemorating the 40 years since Spin and Win. But obviously, he did not qualify for that event, but Miller Lite is still going to return to that car but they're going to renumber it 50 in honor of Miller Lite's 50th anniversary. So be looking for that. It's a really good looking paint scheme, man. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend checking out that livery wherever you can. And obviously, you'll see it this weekend on track at Milwaukee if you're going there or if you're watching it on TV. I think it's going to be one of the better looking cars in the entire paddock. But hey, that's just my opinion. I'm a big sucker for a Miller Lite sponsored race car. So now, hey, speaking of some driver news, let's talk about this. Dale Coyne Racing says it is, quote, confident that it will be able to reach a deal to retain Rinus VeeKay's services for 2026. And obviously, Rinus VeeKay has indicated that he would like to stay with the program as well. Citing, that he likes working with Michael Cannon now. He's really enjoying that partnership and being able to work with someone like Michael Cannon. And obviously, I think they've had some really good results since Michael Cannon was brought to that organization. And so it looks like they're just trying to work out the deals. I think they're trying to get some funding sorted out. It's both sides, really, that are trying to work on this. But also both sides say, we want to come back. Rinus wants to come back. Dale Coyne wants Rinus back. So it looks like that might happen, but again, we will have to see. It is Dale Coyne. Anything can happen. And now for the final piece of IndyCar news to discuss today. IndyCar has expanded their post-race technical inspection, which is, again, something that they said they were going to do after what happened earlier this year at the Indianapolis 500. And as a result of that, they did impound 4 cars after last weekend's race at Portland. Alex Palou, Pato O'Ward, Kyle Kirkwood, and Will Power all had their cars impounded, but then they have since been returned to the teams, and IndyCar said, nope, they were all legal. Everything's good and fine. We got no problems. But there's your number one example of IndyCar really turning up the heat when it comes to post-race technical inspection, especially in the aftermath of what we saw during Indy 500 qualifying. So that is it for the first portion of this little show, but we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we've got a lot of NASCAR news to break down. I mean a lot. So if you're struggling to catch up on the world of NASCAR, you want to know what's going on here, you're going to want to stay tuned, because we're going to talk a lot about that coming up. So don't go anywhere. You are watching The Racing Report. And welcome back to The Racing Report. My name is Rob Peeters. I'm so glad you've stuck through the commercial break. Good to have you back. Let's talk about NASCAR news. As I teased before the commercial break, we do have a lot of NASCAR news to discuss this week. And the number one biggest piece of news that we need to break down is the NASCAR schedule for 2026 has been released. Not just the Cup schedule, but also the schedules for the Xfinity Series, which will be renamed the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series beginning in 2026. As well as the Craftsman Truck Series. So we need to get to that. Let's break down some of that. If you haven't seen the schedule yet, I highly recommend looking them up. They're very easily to be found. They're on NASCAR's website. They're also on WTHR.com if you want to check there. Lots of different places to get the NASCAR schedule. But let's break down some of the biggest changes that we need to discuss. Number one, I think the biggest change that's coming here to NASCAR, and this might not be the biggest change, but this is one of the more significant changes, is that Watkins Glen has moved from its traditional date in August, and it will now be run basically around Mother's Day weekend, beginning on May 10th. So that's going to be a big change. A lot of people are kind of talking about that, what that might mean. We've seen races at Watkins Glen in May before. Obviously, if you recall, way back in 2006, the Indy Racing League, as it was known at the time, held a race at Watkins Glen during the month of May. I believe it was after the Indianapolis 500, and it was quite rainy, and that is typically the climate for the Finger Lakes region of New York during May, and it can be quite rainy, it can be quite cold, so there's a lot of concerns about what the camping is going to be like, because camping is a huge part of the race weekend at Watkins Glen and has been for a very long time. Lots of people love to come out and camp at that racetrack during that weekend. It's typically a beautiful race weekend, sunny skies. I don't know how hot the temperatures are, but at the very least the skies are sunny. So now we could be looking at a situation where we've got some rain during the Watkins Glen races, and it is going to be happening in May, like I said. So that means it's going to be on Fox Sports. Take that or leave that, however you want to do it. But then after we go to Watkins Glen, we're going to go to the All-Star race. And what's happening at the All-Star race? Well, the All-Star race is not going to be at North Wilkesboro Speedway this year. No. And we'll get to what's happening at North Wilkesboro Speedway here in a little bit. But Dover Motor Speedway, yes, the 1 mile concrete oval out in Dover, Delaware, is going to be hosting the 2026 NASCAR All-Star race. In addition, it is going to get an Xfinity or O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race, as well as a truck race, which is something that they haven't had a truck race in several years. So we're going to see that return at least. So at the very least, it's Dover going from 2 points races down to 1 points race, now down to no points races, is at the very least cushioned, I guess, by the fact that they will have Xfinity and truck races. I don't know. I mean, if you're a fan in the Northeast, it definitely seems like NASCAR has been trying to take races away from you for the latter part of this decade. And this is another example of that where, like I said, Dover going from 2 points races just 5 years ago to now none is really it's surprising to a lot of people. A lot of people are not really sure how this is going to go. And another important fact is that according to Bob Proctor, he asked Ben Kennedy about this, whether or not the race would be a night race. Maybe they would put temporary lights in for the Dover Oval, but apparently that doesn't seem to be the case. So what that then means is that next year's All-Star race, not only is it going to be taking place during the day, but it'll also compete basically with Indy 500 qualifying. Which, again, as we've seen with NASCAR trying to do, they do not like, apparently, when your drivers attempt to run the Indy 500. And I'm not going to accuse NASCAR necessarily of doing this on purpose, but this does seem like another attempt to deter drivers from running the double by running the All-Star race now during a day where you would be qualifying. Now, if it's on a Sunday, it wouldn't matter, but if it's on a Saturday, I think, yikes. I think it'll be on a Sunday, but I digress. It's very interesting. Also, Dover as the All-Star race is very controversial. I'm not really sure how this is going to work. Denny Hamlin went on his podcast and talked about how Dover is a long-run track. The longer you run, the wider the grooves get, the more passing you get. When you have short runs at Dover, the groove is very narrow. It's very hard to pass, which a lot of people are kind of nervous about. I think a lot of drivers, fans, and teams are nervous about the quality of racing that you could see in an all-star race at Dover. I have opinions on it. If you want to listen to them, you go ahead and listen to my podcast. That's the Racing with Rob and Roller podcast. Get it wherever you find your podcast. That's an option. I don't have enough time to opine about it during this show, but I would love to. But just know that I do have my opinions there on that podcast if you are willing to listen to that. Meanwhile, as we move on from this All-Star race at Dover thing, obviously we already knew that NASCAR was taking its street race to San Diego at the Coronado Naval Base. We now also know that race will be followed by Sonoma, so they're going to stay in that California region for back-to-back weeks, just going from Southern California up to Northern California, and that's what you'll be seeing there for that weekend. Meanwhile, after that, on July 5th, this is another big thing. Chicagoland Speedway is back. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago as it being a possible rumor that NASCAR was looking into coming back to Chicagoland. Some people didn't think it would happen until 2027, but no, it's happening next year. NASCAR is returning to Chicagoland Speedway, so for all of you in the Midwest who haven't been able to get to Chicagoland Speedway, obviously in the last 5 years, now we will have a chance again, thankfully it is a month after Michigan, so at least those of us here in the Midwest, in the Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, Michigan, Kentucky kind of area, we'll have plenty of opportunities to see races, even though I'm still not so sure I like Nashville and Michigan being back-to-back. I think that's just a little bit too geographically close. Like, I'm just sitting here saying, like, if I was in Indiana, I would like to go to Nashville, too, and see the Cup race there, even though I'm going to the IndyCar race. I'd still like to go see that, but it being back-to-back with Michigan, that kind of makes it a little bit hard unless I have deep pockets and free weekends, which I don't. But for those of you who do, hey, that's an option there. That might be a fun little week, a couple weeks there again for you guys. But that's big. Chicagoland Speedway coming back to the NASCAR Cup Series and Xfinity Series as well. O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, whatever. In addition, and I believe it's supposed to. I think I have to. Let me look here, see if. I don't think trucks are coming back there, but I do know that I believe it is expected that maybe ARCA could come back. The ARCA series is not. The ARCA schedule is not out yet, so we don't really know what ARCA races are going to be held. I think we do know ARCA's coming back to Pocono, but as far as that, I don't think we have anything else really confirmed. Now, after we go to Chicagoland Speedway, the next new event is going to be the first points race at North Wilkesboro Speedway since 1996. On July 19th, North Wilkesboro is going to host what will be called the Window World 400, a 400-lap race around North Wilkesboro Speedway. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Even Ben Kennedy, a lot of the NASCAR executives, very interestingly, said that fan opinion pretty much made this happen. The fan base's desire to see a points race at North Wilkesboro Speedway drove this decision. It drove the decision also to move the All-Star race to Dover so that they could have a points race at North Wilkesboro Speedway. And this is when it's going to be. It's going to be July 19th. It's going to be part of the TNT in-race challenge, in-season challenge, I should say. So a lot of different things there. And now after we go to having that North Wilkesboro, here are some of the other changes. North Wilkesboro is going to be moved out of the playoffs, and it's going to become the penultimate race before the regular season finale, which again is going to stay at Daytona. And then we've got a round of 8 shakeup, so the final 4 races are going to be all different. Instead of having the penultimate race at Phoenix, like has been the case all the way until they started having the championship race at Phoenix, it will now be the opening race of the round of 8, followed by Talladega, and then Martinsville will be the final race before the cutoff for the championship 4, and then obviously the championship race is going to be held at Homestead Miami Speedway, which is something we already knew ahead of time. Now, as we talk about some of the changes to some of the other series, the Xfinity Series, like I said, I'm going to call it the Xfinity Series for right now, but it will be known as the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series beginning next year. They're not going back to Portland. No more Portland at all. NASCAR is not returning to Portland at all. That likely leaves IndyCar as the only major racing series now racing at Portland, which is very disappointing for the Pacific Northwest. Again, it seems like NASCAR is not interested in holding races in the Pacific Northwest, despite the fact that is a very popular motorsport region. In the same regard as so is Denver, the Colorado area. I think it was Colorado National Raceway held a Cars Tour event, I think, over the past week. And there were lots of people saying that there was a lot of people here. Some journalists there were saying, wow, look at all this crowd. This is a starved motorsports crowd, but I digress. So, unfortunately, if you're a West Coast person, you don't live in California, I guess there's just no NASCAR races for you next year, unfortunately, and that's what I'm sorry about. I'm really sorry to report that. But again, some positive news. Series is again returning to Chicagoland, which I think should be a great race. I think the Cup Series and the Xfinity Series at Chicagoland both going to be 2 banger races. I think if you are like me, you live in Indianapolis, might be time to make a trip up to Joliet. I'm already planning that myself. I think I'm going to check Chicagoland Speedway off my bucket list, and I'm looking forward to doing that. Couple other changes with the Xfinity Series schedule for next year. The Kansas race during the fall is actually now been moved up to the spring, and while they now also will have a second race at Darlington, so they're going to go there twice, just like the Cup Series. For the Truck Series, here's the biggest thing about the Truck Series. This is crazy. This is not something I expected to see, but it is happening. The NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, in their third race of the year, is going to go to St. Petersburg. Yes, that's St. Petersburg. That same St. Petersburg that the IndyCar Series races at. Well, they're going to be the undercard to the Xfinity to the IndyCar Series during the St. Petersburg Grand Prix weekend. That is not that I did not see coming. That was completely out of left field. Nobody was reporting that. Nobody even considered that as a rumor, but it has now been confirmed, and it appears to be something that was really spearheaded by Fox, really wanting to have some NASCAR IndyCar double headers. Now, also, it was interesting that there was reported that Ben Kennedy did say that, yeah, we are looking to do more races, do more collaborations with IndyCar in the future, and this is just the start of that. Now, if you are someone like me who's very fond of the 2000s in the world of racing, like I am, I love the 90s, love the 2000s. I don't think you're ever going to get any better than that. But something I really missed was when the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series and the IndyCar Series would hold joint races together. Usually the Truck Series would support the IndyCar race, and that would be the case. Now, the last time I believe that's really happened was the last time the IndyCar Series raced at Texas Motor Speedway back in 2023 when a Truck Series race did accompany them. But now this is going to be really, I think, the first time they're going to accompany them on a road course, let alone a street course. So what's funny about that was the Coronado race down in San Diego was supposed to be the Truck Series' first race on a street course. Well, now that title is actually going to go to St. Petersburg, which is kind of cool. I'm looking forward to that. A lot of people are already, IndyCar drivers in the paddock are already talking about, hey, can we get truck rides? Maybe. Scott McLaughlin even saying, Kyle Kirkwood kind of saying, Colton Herta, they're all kind of thinking, we might want to try out some, we might want to be in that truck race too. So lots of cool things going on there, especially with that race. But some other news about the Truck Series, we already talked about it. They are coming back to Dover. Meanwhile, their Darlington date is going to move to the spring, so that's new, while their Kansas date is going to move to the fall. So as we talked about the Xfinity Series, their Kansas date is going to move from the fall to the spring. The Truck Series Kansas date is going to move to from the spring to the fall. And then 3 races are out. 3 tracks are out. The series will not be returning to Las Vegas Motor Speedway. The series will not host, for the first time in, I think, forever, a Martinsville race in the spring. They're only going to have a Martinsville race in the fall, the Truck Series, and then they will not be returning to Pocono either. So the Truck Series, which has been at Pocono, I think since 2010, will not be returning to Pocono beginning next year. So those are the big changes in the NASCAR schedule. And now let's try and absorb all that. You got it? You got all that? That's all the news in the NASCAR. We got to get through all of the rest of the NASCAR news so we can take our second break. Okay? We're going to run through it. As we already talked about, the NASCAR Xfinity Series is set to become the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series beginning next year in 2026. Also, in regards to the lower series, NASCAR is reportedly considering a change to the amount of lower series races a Cup driver can run. Apparently, Steve O'Donnell talked to an influencer over the week about that, and that's what was said. They are literally considering that. Very interesting, some controversy. I'm sure that's a controversial statement. I'm sure people are going to be level-headed when talking about that. Meanwhile, more, like I said, NASCAR lawsuit news. Got to get through this real quick. 2311, NASCAR has filed a motion listing reasons why a federal judge should not grant 2311 and Faro Motorsports a preliminary injunction to receive charter benefits for the rest of the season. Now, NASCAR claims it wants to sell 2311 and FRM's charters so any new charters can get ready to be able to, any new team owners, I should say, can be ready to start racing in 2026. And now they also are adding to that claim that, hey, they're not, 2311 and FRM are not suffering any monetary damages because, based on their owners' points, they can still qualify. Up to 6 open cars can qualify for any Cup race. Again, that's a rule that NASCAR arbitrarily made this year. That trial is still set for December as of now, and I think it's going to happen in December. And boy, am I I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not looking forward to it for a couple of reasons. I still don't think this is going to settle because this is getting nasty. But anyway, let's talk about some other news here. Matt Crafton has announced that he will retire from the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series after 25 years in the sport. Made his debut in the season finale race in 2000 at Fontana Speedway, and then has been running full-time ever since, beginning in that 2001 Truck Series season. Matt Crafton, also a 3-time Truck Series champion. Thor Sport Racing, his team owner, longtime team that he's raced for, announced that Ty Majeski will take over the number 88 Menards truck beginning next season. Colleague Racing President Chris Rice says the team is close to re-signing Ty Dillon for 2026. Speaking of Colleague Racing, it is highly rumored, and probably by the time you're watching this, it'll be announced that they will be going truck racing next year with Dodge. Watch that space. Final couple pieces of news here. Casey Mears will reappear. Brock Beard watchers from decades ago will remember that. He's going to race NASCAR Cup Series this weekend at Daytona. He's going to be driving for Garage 66 in the number 66 Ford entry. And finally, Connor Zilisch is going to be back in behind the wheel this weekend at Daytona for the Xfinity Series race there after breaking his collarbone when he fell while celebrating a victory at Watkins Glen 2 weeks ago. Looks like he has, apparently in pictures and videos I've seen, I guess he's out of his sling, which is good news. But he's officially on the entry list, so it looks like Connor Zilisch will be racing next week. All right, got to take our final break, and then we're going to come back, recap the races from this past weekend, and get you ready for all the races coming up. So literally all of that's coming up here, so don't go anywhere. You are watching The Racing Report. And welcome back to The Racing Report. My name is Rob Peeters. I'm so glad you've stuck around through this little commercial break. Let's recap the weekend for you here before the show ends. We had the NASCAR weekend in Richmond, mainly one of the main races happening this weekend. Austin Dillon finally got that redemption. Remember last year, that was not the way you want to win, wrecking Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin to take the victory. His playoff status was revoked from him after that. He got to keep the win, but his playoff status was revoked. He will stay in the playoffs after winning on merit in probably one of the best short track races I've seen in NASCAR since the introduction of the next-gen car. Incredible racing. Great job to Goodyear making a tire that actually degraded, meaning drivers had to actually work and control their tires, putting the driving back into the driver's hands and not so much into the aerodynamics and the team's hands, which is always a good thing, especially in NASCAR. Great race overall. I thought it was very great. I think that Austin Dillon's crew chief hands down nailed the strategy. Austin Dillon executed to perfection, and it was just I don't think you can ask any more of a driver in that situation. So Austin Dillon punched his ticket into the playoffs. Now there's only 2 spots left in the playoffs. Currently, they're being held by Tyler Reddick and Alex Bowman. But if somebody wins this weekend at Daytona that isn't Reddick or Bowman, one of those drivers will be bumped out. And I believe at the moment it is Reddick. Maybe Bowman. I don't know. I'd have to look. But anyway, it's one of those 2. Meanwhile, in the Truck Series, Corey Heim took the victory again. That's another win for Corey Heim, man. He's racking them off like crazy. He's got so many playoff points, especially since that was the final truck race of the regular season. Now they start their playoffs coming up here in a couple of weeks. But here's the playoff field for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. It's going to be Corey Heim. He's seated first, followed by Lane Riggs, Chandler Smith, Daniel Hemrick, Tyler Ankrum, Ty Majeski, Grant Enfinger, Raja Carruth, Caden Honeycutt, and finally Jake Garcia. So good to see Caden Honeycutt still made the playoffs, which means him and Hamar Friesen Racing will still be able to go for a championship in both the driver and owner's standings, which is really good news there. Meanwhile, let's talk about also the ARCA Series was racing at one of the 2 remaining dirt ovals, mile-long dirt ovals, I should say. There's plenty of dirt ovals in the world today, but when it comes to mile-long dirt ovals at local state fairgrounds, there's only 2 left, and ARCA still races at 2 of them, and the first one was at the Illinois State Fairgrounds this past weekend, where Brent Cruz won that ARCA race. And then big shout-out to a former guest of the show, Brayton Laster, finishing 7th, scoring the first top 10 finish for Wayne Peterson Racing since 2018, scoring his first top 10 finish in the ARCA Menard Series. Good for him. Congratulations to Brayton Laster. That was great. His best finish also in the ARCA Menard Series. Congratulations to Greenwood's own, the one pizza man, Brayton Laster. Now let's go ahead and wrap this show up talking about some of the races that are coming up this weekend. Again, it's a big weekend in NASCAR. The Daytona night races are coming up here. We got the Xfinity Series racing on Friday. Meanwhile, the Cup Series will be racing on Saturday night. It's another Saturday night race for the Cup Series, so be aware of that. And then we've also got the IndyCar Series in Milwaukee for its penultimate race of the season. Looking forward to that. Again, only one race this year compared to the 2 races they were having last year. Just one race this year, but I still think it's going to be a fun one. Hopefully the crowd turns out like they did last year. And then finally, we've got IMSA at Virginia International Raceway this weekend. Always love a good old race at VIR. How can you not? So be looking for that. That's going to be a fun one as well if you like sports car racing, which I like to think people do. I like sports car racing, so anyway. But that is it for this week's episode of the Racing Report. Thank you all again so much for tuning in. We really, really, really appreciate it. We love your support. We're so glad to see you guys view and everything. Thanks again so much. And be sure, if you like the show, like I said every week, please do be sure to follow me on social media so that you can get updates on this show, get all the latest motorsports news. Make sure you're checking out WTHR.com whenever you can for the latest motorsports news, and make sure you're subscribed to WTHR on YouTube and have the WTHR Plus app installed on your smart TV. So, thanks. That's it for this week's episode. Thank you again so much for WTHR Plus. My name is Rob Peeters, and this has been the Racing Report.